A lot of people have questions about their groceries. When they bring their groceries home, is it necessary to wipe down the bottles, the packaging, and how do you deal with the fresh produce?
So when it comes to fresh produce, I would wash it without a doubt. Now, you don't need to use any sort of fancy vegetable wash. You certainly don't need to use soap and water. But what you do need to do is run it underwater and massage it with your hands. The breakdown of really any virus or any bacteria, it's more of a physical. The physical washing is the most effective. And what I mean by that, that is physically rubbing the produce. So you can almost act like there's dirt on it, right? And you're trying to massage that dirt off of it. That's going to be more effective than the chemical breakdown, which is basically when you put soap or something else on it that actually breaks down the molecules from a chemical level.
I've actually read some people cautioning against using soap because ingesting it, too much of it, can be harmful.
Yeah, and it's just not necessary. I mean, when it comes to produce, please, this does not apply to washing your hands. This also doesn't apply if you're using a vegetable scrubber, like one of those brushes. You should definitely wash that with soap and water beforehand and afterwards. But during, I would just use cold water.
And what about groceries in general? Should those be wiped down?
As of right now, we haven't really seen any transfer of the virus through food or through food containers. And this is, this is as of today, and this is according to the FDA and the CDC. It is technically possible for the virus to be transferred on surfaces. And so yes, if it makes you feel more comfortable, washing it down isn't going to hurt. Now, having said that, if you're practicing safe hand washing, meaning you're washing your hands after you put it away, or if you're cooking with it, you're washing your hands before you actually eat something, then that's perfectly fine. You don't need to be wiping down everything that comes in and out of your house.
We went and bought some tortilla chips, and so I took a Clorox wipe and was just wiping down the bag. I mean, is that...
It's interesting that you bring up chips in general. So if it's going to be anything that you are going to put into a different container before you eat, I wouldn't worry about it. Now, if you're going to curl up with your tortilla chips on the couch, watching TV, then yeah, absolutely. I would wipe that container down. But if you're going to take it and put it in a bowl and then wash your hands, before and after, I wouldn't worry about it.
So we were talking fresh produce as a takeout option, salads, things that aren't cooked. And you had some advice about that.
Absolutely. I mean, when it comes to fresh produce, let's see, there's two sets of people to think about in this situation. One is the average person like you and I that could potentially get sick, and I'm not discounting that. The other is the immunosuppressed. And so those are people either in the high risk group or if their immune systems are suppressed. And so if you fall into that category, I would dot every I and I would cross every T. And to be perfectly honest, I would not be getting fresh produce as takeout right now. Cooked, absolutely. Cooked food, that is perfectly fine. If you want to make a salad potentially at home, that's perfectly fine as well. But although the risk is so small, that wouldn't be a risk that I would want to take with someone that I care about.
So if you have a loved one who's immunocompromised or who's in the older, higher risk age group, no salads to go would be your recommendation?
No, I would stick with maybe a soup. I would stick with something that's been heated. It's been shown that the virus will be destroyed when food is heated past 149 degrees Fahrenheit. And so
does
that's
microwaving help that? Food that you can microwave, just if you want to be super cautious?
Certainly. I mean, heating in any sort of way. If you were to put it in the oven, if you were to put it in the microwave, that will potentially kill that virus, as far as we know right now.
Would you say for fresh produce, you're washing it under the cold water? Would you say to then put it in your refrigerator for 3 days to make sure the virus dies, or no? Is that
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. It's also that compromise of you want to get as many nutrients into you as possible. If we want to talk along the lines of keeping your immune system strong, when it comes down to keeping your immune system strong, fruits and vegetables are the cornerstone of that. I have heard a fair amount of people say, you know what, I'm just going to cut out fruits and vegetables just to be safe. And although I think they're using that as an excuse, it's not something I'd recommend. We get the risk is very low and we get so many nutrients from our fruits and vegetables. If you feel uncomfortable, please cook them, please heat them, but I would absolutely not cut them out altogether. Some of the other questions I've heard is some people are asking if it's better to shop at farmers markets or things like that. And a lot of local farms have kind of revamped their business model. So they're doing touchless CSA boxes. And basically that means that you Venmo them X amount of dollars, you drive up, they have masks, they have gloves, they put the produce in your car, and then you move on.
Wow.
And so that's an extraordinarily safe way of doing it. Still wash the produce, still wash your hands, do all the things. But it's a great way to support local business and the local economy, and also get great fruits and vegetables into you in a safe way.
So if you just Google CSA San Diego, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, there is. Let me look it up. I think it's live. You can go to localharvest.org and look up San Diego. And I do know that up in Carlsbad, I believe it's Aviara Farms has a great system, and they're doing some really wonderful things, and especially getting us all our strawberries that we look forward to this time of year.
So smoothies, those things I know some people are saying, I don't want to do a smoothie because it's raw, but if those items are washed properly, there's no problem with that, right?
I'd feel comfortable with it. I actually have a smoothie almost every morning, and I feel comfortable with washing the produce and blending it up. Again, if I was immunocompromised, I might do something different. But as a person who's just trying to do the best they can and take the best care of themselves and avoid the virus, obviously, I still feel very safe doing that.
I mean, I guess things like apples, oranges, they don't need to be refrigerated. So you could come home, wash them, and then leave them just for an extra measure of protection. Just leave them in a bowl for 3 days, because they say that the virus dies after 3 to 4 days.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And also thinking about things where you eat the skin, where you don't, versus you don't eat the skin, right? Like a banana, you're going to peel that off. And so the odds of it getting in there are, I don't even know how you would do that.
One more question, just to set the record straight. When you bring home your groceries from the grocery store, what would you recommend if someone wants to be really diligent and extra cautious?
If someone wants to be very diligent, and I'm not saying everyone needs to do this, but if you want to just, like I said, cross any risk off the list, I would, before you leave, I'd put a towel on your table. I would come home, I would unpack the groceries, I would throw away the containers that it came in, so the bags. And then I would wash down all the produce. I would store it and wash my hands again.
Okay. And the bottles and cans and.
I'm personally not washing those unless it's something that you're going to not be washing your hands while you use it, right? So again, if you're going to be sitting with a bag of chips, or you're going to be sitting with some crackers and you're going to be putting your hand in and then eating it, then yeah, I would wipe it down. But if you're going to be cooking with something and you're washing your hands beforehand and you're washing it afterwards, it's not going to get into you.
Okay, great.